welcome back to my channel Navigator Noma. So friends, today's video we are going to discuss about the most critical operation on oil tanker, that is cargo discharging operation. In my last video I discussed, that is part 1. In the part 2, this is the part 2 of the video. So in part 2 I am going to explore the pump characteristic and HQ curves that every duty officer must understand, and highlight the key precautions to ensure a safe and efficient transfer of the cargo. So friends, this video will give you a clear insights that how the pumps behave under different conditions, and how the shore resistance affect the discharge rates, and what essential checks you must never overlook. Okay, so stay tuned till the end to strengthen your ship cargo operation knowledge and avoid costly mistakes during the cargo discharge. So without wasting the time, let's start the video. In May 2016, a crude oil tanker arrived in the port d'Antifer to discharge 1.9 million barrels of Bonny crude oil. After being given the go-ahead to start the discharge operation, the cargo officer flooded all the 3 cargo pumps by opening the number 1 center cargo tank main suction valve, and the suction valve was also opened fully, which is required by the discharge plan. And the number 1 center cargo tank was 98% full. And a full bore of crude oil suddenly impacted the walls of the pump casing, having traveled 250 meters along a 750 millimeter diameter pipeline. This violently jolted the pump assembly and the fittings connected to it. The officer in charge heard a slight shudder, but as this happened every time he flooded the pumps, he thought nothing more about it. But he didn't know that the pump suction pressure transmitters were always failing on number 1 and number 2 cargo pumps, because they were being flooded in this way. More worryingly, on this occasion, the impact had dislodged and weakened a suction pressure gauge pipe on the pump. As the officer in charge knew nothing about this, the rest of the cargo tanks were opened to the pumps and discharge continued with the pumps at full speed. When the tanks were close to empty, the pump suddenly became very noisy and the pump discharge pressure gauge readings fell. This indicated that it was time to stop number 2 pump as per the plan and slow down the other pumps as the tanks were nearly empty. Unfortunately, cavitation subjected the already weakened pressure gauge pipe to sudden vibration. This was enough to make it shear and spray crude under high pressure all over the port side of the pump room. Throughout this module, we will learn how these type of accidents can happen. More importantly, we will learn how they can be avoided during bulk discharge operation. Centrifugal cargo pumps are an essential component of cargo system. However, without knowing how they generate flow and pressure, it's difficult for those controlling discharge to appreciate how to use cargo pumps effectively. Some tankers are able to discharge at a rate of 18,000 meters cubic per hour. This is the equivalent of filling 6 standard 20-foot shipping containers in 1 minute. That's 1 every 10 seconds. When considering such high flow rates, it's important that those in charge of a discharging operation understand how to control the centrifugal. We will start by looking at the relationship between discharge pressure and flow for different pump rotational speeds, and then we will consider how a cargo reception facility arrangement affects pumping rates. So we will also focus how to operate the centrifugal cargo pumps effectively and how to operate pumps as the cargo approaches the stripping levels. Okay, cargo tanks approaches the stripping level. So throughout we will use this pump control console to show what you need to monitor and control during the discharge operation. We will also consider some of the practical aspects of controlling the fluid so that you can play your part in the safer and efficient discharge operation. Centrifugal pumps are used on crude oil tankers for the transfer of ballast and cargo, as they can develop large flow rates. Let's take a look at how centrifugal cargo pumps work. As crude enters the pump, the rotating impeller speeds up the liquid. The crude then slows down as it passes through the narrow part of a spiral funnel shaped chamber called a volute. As the area of the volute increases, does the pressure of the crude, which results in the crude leaving the pump with increased pressure. If you were to control the flow of crude oil cargo correctly during a bulk discharge, it's important that you understand the relationship between the flow and the pressure generated by a centrifugal pump. When considering the pressure generated by a centrifugal pump, it's useful to think about how far a pump can lift a liquid. Pumping system designers and manufacturers refer to this as head, or more accurately discharge head. This is usually measured in meters but can be converted to more familiar units of pressure known as bar. So we do this by multiplying the head by the density of liquid being pumped and dividing it by 10197. Okay, so for example, a head of 155 meter and a density of 890 kilogram per cubic meter would be equivalent to a pressure of 13.5 bars. Okay, now how the head changes with flow is the characteristic of the centrifugal pump, and this relationship can be shown on the graph, which is shown represents the volumetric flow rate in meter cubics per hour. We give this the letter Q, and the y-axis represent the head in meters. We give this letter H. The maximum head that a pump can generate occurs when the flow is zero. We call this the shut-off head, and it is equivalent to what would be seen on the pump discharge pressure gauge if the valve was closed against the flow. The maximum flow occurs when head is at minimum. This would be the case if the pump flow was totally unrestricted. Between these 2 points, there are a range of head conditions with corresponding flow rates. Pump manufacturers create the range of head conditions by throttling the pump discharge valve under test conditions and recording the various flow rates. The results plotted on the graph is known as a pump performance curve, or sometimes an HQ curve. You will see this in the pump manufacturer handbook, and they will often be posted in the cargo control room. While it is theoretically possible to operate the cargo pump under the full range of head conditions, You should avoid operating the centrifugal pump close to the shutoff point because the flow rate is very restricted and the pump casing could overheat. You should also avoid operating under very low head condition as the huge flow rate generated can cause a large torque on the pump shaft. There will be a point where the pump is developing flow and head at maximum efficiency. This is called duty point, and this is the point at which design discharge head and flow rate meet on the pump performance curve. 4500 meters cubic per hour flow rate and 100 meters head. Using our formula from earlier, we can work out the flow rate by multiplying the design flow rate by the given pump rotational speed divided by design rotational speed. This gives us flow rate of 4500 cubic per hour. Similarly, we can work out the head by multiplying the design head by the pump rotational speed divided by design rotational speed all squared. This gives us a head of 100.4 meters. In fact, we can calculate the head and corresponding flow rate for all points on our performance curve and plot. We can do this for a range of pump speeds. The resulting performance curves will be mathematically similar to the design performance curve or HQ curve for design speed that we saw earlier in the module. In this case, our pump starts and gradually increases to its minimum speed of 650 rpm. As it does, the show resistance curve crosses the pump performance curve at 2000 cubics per hour and a head of 68 meters or 6.7 bar. As we increase the pump speed to 850 rpm, we achieve a flow rate of 2975 meters cubic per hour and a head of 116 meter or 11.4 bar discharge pressure. As we reached 1050 rpm, we achieve a flow rate of 3325 cubics per hour and a head of 144 meters or 14.1 bar discharge pressure. The final thing to consider is what happens when we operate cargo pumps under low show resistant conditions. This can result in flow rates well in excess of the maximum permissible low show resistance condition exist when pumping to cabin storage or to shore tanks connected by a large diameter pipeline close to tanker. This can lead to a very high torque on the pump shaft. In these type of situations, it is good practice to use the pump discharge valve to restrict the flow and create an artificially high head that is somewhere close to design conditions or duty point on the HQ curve. When a cargo pump is being run up, the person in charge must recognize when there are problems and what to do about them. If after starting the cargo pump is noisy and the suction pressure suddenly falls to zero or it's negative and the alleged cargo tank being discharged is not changing, it is most likely that the inline wall is closed on the pipeline on the suction side of the pump. Similarly, if pump suction pressure doesn't fall when the pump is started and the discharge pressure rises quickly and there is no change in knowledge for the tanks being discharged, an inline wall is closed on the discharge side of the pump. This could be on the ship or terminal side. If a pumping problem cannot be dealt with straight away, then the pump should be stopped immediately as the bulk pumping continues. The pump suction pressure will decrease due to the falling tank levels, as seen by the increasing ullage. In fact, the pump suction pressure will decrease until it is negative. When the tank level is near to stripping level and the pump suction pressure gets too low, pump cavitation can occur. This is caused by the formation and subsequent collapse of vapor bubbles in a pump, which can damage the pump impeller and other pump components. This must be avoided by gradually reducing the pump's rotational speed as the cargo approaches stripping level and eventually stopping one or two of the cargo pumps if three are running. If you see slight movements of the pump's tachometer gauge needle or the suction or a discharge pressure gauge needles, these may be the first indication of the start of pump cavitation. The pump speed should then be reduced as much as necessary until steady pumping conditions are resumed. The pump suction pressure gauges must be monitored extremely closely at this stage, and the pump revolution must be reduced until the cargo tanks reach stripping levels. At this time, the main cargo pump should be stopped or operated with a vacuum stripping system. Earlier we considered how a single centrifugal pump develops flow and head under high and low show resistance condition. But what happens when we operate 2 or 3 pumps at the same time? When 2 or more identical cargo pumps discharge into a common pipeline to a shore reception facility, we say they are operating in a parallel. When this is the case, each of the pump's rotational speeds and discharge pressure should be the same or very similar to ensure they all do a similar amount of work. When the discharge pressure are different, the multiple cargo pumps are not operating together effectively, and the casing of the pump with the lowest discharge pressure will overheat because it is not pumping effectively and is contributing little, if anything, to the flow rate. Let's look at how multiple pumps operate in parallel by considering performance curve and show resistance curve. When operating identical centrifugal pumps in a parallel, they will achieve the same shutoff head as they would for one pump for a particular rotational speed. When we look at multiple pump performance curve, we see that the flow rate of 2 pumps operating in parallel without considering show resistance will be twice that for one, and the flow rate for 3 pumps will be 3 times that for one. However, if we overlay with a typical show resistance curve in the same way as we did earlier, we see that the actual flow rate for 2 pumps will not be twice that for 1 pump or 3 times for 3 pumps. When there are high show resistance conditions operating, 2 pumps only increases the overall flow rate slightly more than if 1 cargo pump is running, but the discharge pressure increases significantly. When operating 3 pumps, the increase in flow is hardly noticeable, but again the discharge pressure increases significantly. Under these high shore resistance conditions, paralleling three cargo pumps requires careful control to match the pump discharge pressure. When operating in a parallel, the rotational speed of each pump should be increased in a step of 50 or 100 rpm. Between each step, the discharge pressure should be seen to settle before increasing any further. When possible, it is always more efficient to operate two pumps at or near full operational speed rather than using three pumps. This was the part 2 of the cargo oil tanker discharge operation. Okay, so I tried my best to give you more and more informations. Okay, that brings us to the end of today's video on oil tanker discharge operation, pump characteristic, HQ curves, and the precautions every duty officer must take. I hope this breakdown helps you to build your confidence in handling the cargo operation safely and efficiently. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel Navigator Noman for more insights on ship operation and merchant navy knowledge. Drop your question or experience in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Okay, until next time, stay safe at sea and keep learning. Bye.